Hello and welcome. Chris from Missouri here, bringing you another video about vintage baseball cards. In this video, I'm going to show you a few cards, but I'm going to show you some cards that I picked up at a recent card show and tell you almost everything I want to tell you about that card show. See, I'm going to do a story here now, but there's something I'm going to leave out for a future video because it's going to tie one video in that I'm excited to share with you, but I don't want to do that video just yet. But I do want to get this story out because it's pretty important to me. I set up at a card show. Again, it's the local card show. You've heard me talk about it. You've heard me talk about it quite a bit in Columbia, Missouri, and it was pretty unique. I set up with Mauricio, and it was slow for us, but it didn't keep us from having fun. We got our usual pack of cards and handed them out to kids and watched their reactions and stuff. But I had some visitors come by fairly early, and just to visit with me and stuff, and maybe ask a question or two. And speaking of that, I'm going to answer. It's going to be a question and answer day for me actually, because I'm going to answer a question from another guy that came by. And anyway, my two visitors was Austin and Maddox, the Freeze brothers. That's what I called them earlier in a video. And they are huge baseball collectors and really good kids. They're good students. One of them's just a heck of a reader, and the other one's going to follow in his footsteps. But they're big baseball fans and big baseball card fans, and there's kind of I believe there's a reason for it. Austin and Maddox are lucky enough to have a set of really great parents, I believe, that share in their excitement in sports. Their dad, their dad was a high school athlete, mom was a high school athlete, and Dad's unique around here in this town. He's a huge hockey fan, and there's only a handful of hockey fans here, but he shares that love with these two boys, but they had to get it from somewhere too. And see, Megan is the mom's name, and Michael is the father's name. Heck, I'm doing a whole story about their family, I guess. But they come by it honestly as well. See, Michael's mom and dad were basketball coaches, and you know, very community oriented, and just shared that kind of passion on to Michael. Michael's really good for the town because he does a lot of good things for the community. He coaches a lot of stuff, just like his parents did. And see, Megan, her mom and dad are educators, and educators to me have a really good place in my heart. That's what I became, and anymore, if you're an educator, that's almost like a calling. I liken it to being a pastor of a church or something like that. And her parents are lifelong educators, and their dad is a friend of mine, and which is Maddox and Austin's grandfather, and he happened to come to this show as well. And so it was really neat seeing the generations of stuff there, and Sonny. I'm going to call his name. I haven't called him Sonny in 30 years because I respect him a tad bit more than that. He's actually a professor and was my professor. He was a doctor, and he's one of the big reasons that I furthered my education to become an administrator. He's one of the hardest teachers I ever had, and he's a little bit misunderstood, I believe, by some in this town. But he has a joy for baseball, and a big Cardinal fan, and a big baseball fan. And matter of fact, the museum asked me to show off some cards this past year, I asked him if he would come down and stand behind and ask some questions and answer some questions for some people about those cards. And he didn't have any time to prepare, but he didn't need any time to prepare. He kind of was holding court all by himself, answering any kind of questions about any of the baseball cards. And I've seen pictures of him trading with these two young boys and trading cards on Facebook and stuff. Megan will post some stuff, but I love to see that kind of generation stuff. Somebody has passed on that love to somebody else who have passed it on, and there's talk on here about are the vintage cards dying, and or is the collecting dying, and as long as you got people like Sonny to pass it on to his grandkids, well, it's not going to die. There's more and more people. And matter of fact, if you're going to be honest with these kids, and this is my opinion, and you can disagree or write it down in a comment, but if they would come to me, and they've asked me about, asked me some questions, but if you're going to be honest with them, one of the things you have to ask them as their collectors, do you want to do this so these cards retain value? Or do you want to do this just for the love of opening up some cards that the players of? Because these young kids, they're under 12 years old, and they're starting to know players' names and different things like that. But if I was going to be honest with them, I don't know if I would tell them to go open up a box of cards, and then they would miss out on the joy of opening up packs. I would probably tell them, whatever player you're looking for, go find that player and buy his card. Now, that's missing out, but I'm being honest with them. But vintage cards aren't going anywhere. The hobby's not going to die because people are going to pass it on and keep passing it on. And I was so glad that Maddox and Austin showed up to the table. I was able to give them a little care package of stuff, and I'm hoping they enjoyed that as they opened it up. But man, it was really, really fun visiting with kind of a mentor of mine, and a guy that enjoys baseball as much as I do. But at this show, we were slow. Maurice and I were slow. Like I said, we were having fun passing out these cards, but that's about passing out these packs, but that's about it. Mauricio was selling more cards than me, and until it got down to the very end, and about the last 45 minutes of the show, I had a great show, and it was fun. And I purposely didn't pick up any cards because I was going to use the money that I made during the show and then go over to somebody's table and buy a card. I wasn't going to take any money out of my pocket this time to do that. And so it got so late that dealers were starting to, people that I wanted to buy some stuff from started to take down their tables and put away their cards. So I didn't get a chance to pick up very many cards, but I'm going to show you the cards that I did pick up. So I went to a person's table, and you're going to hear about this guy the next show. But I picked up this Minnie Minoso card, and I'm working on his run, and I just think that's a beautiful card. Look at that slide going into second base. I mean, just a beautiful card of a great player. Now then also, I want to show you this. And I picked up this card, and then last night I was watching, this is an exhibit card, and that's Sandy Koufax. And last night I was watching Ray from Philly with one of my favorite YouTubers, and they were doing their baseball card Hall of Fame segment. And that YouTuber that Ray from Philly had on his channel was none other than Chris Sewell, who just everybody loves. He's non-controversial. He just shows cards and talks about stuff, and everybody likes him. Everybody now except me, because when he was talking about his Hall of Fame cards, I was just telling somebody how I'm starting to love these exhibit cards, and so I picked up a Mays and a Mantle and a Hank Aaron and a few of them, and now I picked up this Sandy Koufax. But as Chris Sewell was going over some of those as Chris Sewell was going over some of those cards that were eligible for Hall of Fame, uh, an exhibit card came up, and just right out of his mouth said, "Yeah, I just don't care for exhibit cards." And so, what used to be a non-controversial, YouTuber and a great guy, I'm a number one enemy of his because exhibits are some of my favorites. And you guys know that I'm just kidding because everybody can have their opinion, but I am starting to collect some of these exhibit cards, and I do like them even though they're oversized. And so those were the cards that I picked up, and we had the hobby's not dying. The place was crowded again. A lot of people in and out. A lot of people sold a lot of stuff. Um, so uh, the hobby collecting train is rolling hard down the tracks, and it's not going to get derailed anytime soon. Even if people say, "Oh, are these young guys going to collect vintage cards? Are these vintage cards going to, just nobody's going to collect them anymore?" Well, I'm going to bet against that, and when somebody asks me, I'm going to try to be honest with them. But I don't want young kids like Maddox and Austin missing out on opening up packs because for some that was a huge joy. Now, some of these prices that some of these cards are getting right now make it difficult for a kid and difficult for parents to be able to buy a lot of cards for kids to open up. But grandpas can share their knowledge with their grandkids, and maybe instead of opening up packs all the time, they too can go learn about Minnie Minosa and go buy a Minnie Minosa card. Now, guys, again, I want to thank those guys for stopping by and seeing me. And if I'm setting up a show somewhere, please stop by and see me. I had let me finish. Let me finish with this. There's a group of about 6 guys that came by from just south of Columbia, and they are vintage collectors and just got into collecting vintage cards. And Chance is the mullet head kid that came by and has already bought a bunch of cards from me, and and he's caught the bug. And so guys like Chance is going to keep this vintage stuff alive. So guys, remember, it's just a hobby. Collect what you like.